Milo 2, brought to you by the best names in the business and a whole bunch of my mates helping out. Well, we're getting there, big day in the shed. Richard is working on customising a MaxTrax mount here for the side. I had the tracks on the front, you might remember. I'm not going anywhere without my MaxTrax, but on the front they were too noisy in the new quiet cab, you know, a little bit too much whistling up the front. And it wasn't all girls when I came through towns in my new flash truck. Don't let the handbrake see that bit. Meanwhile, I got some floor trims here. Floor trims. I hardly had a floor in Milo, now I've got floor trims. I'm going to cut these down, whack them in there somehow, try and seal up the edge there. I wish Jason was here, he was so much better at stuff like that than me. Anyway, what else? Oh, bit of joy. This is all the old vacuum stuff and don't need any of it. The only vacuum you need, and it's not even vacuum on a 12HT, you really need is you need to pressure the little thing that looks like a vacuum suction thing on the back of the fuel. It's actually an enrichener. So you actually have a pressurisation system, not a vacuum system, that runs from the inlet manifold to the back of the fuel pump. And that is the only thing we need because we got vacuum for the brakes, you know. That's what you need it for. The rest of it is just superfluous stuff like switching the motor off electronically with your little vacuum thingy. So we get rid of all of that. We're slowly making this thing as simple as you can get it. So I'll just go back to putting the floor trims in. Woohoo! Richard reckons he loves going through my scrap pile, you know, cutting all sorts of weird shapes out. He can make almost anything when you've got a good rubbish pile and a good welder. And he loves doing stuff like that. But the funny thing is, so do I. And do you know what the difference is? Not a lot, except that he does it properly and then he finishes it off and it looks really good. Mine just kind of does it, but it works, I guess. Oh, we're still going here. The handbrake's been a little bit touchy about how come I haven't put a passenger seat in Milo 2. So, got a beaut seat here. Should suit it perfectly. At least it will. Once we got a new set of the old faves on it. Black duck, beautiful. And I had an issue with the EGT boost gauge, the Redarc gauge, but I just can't get it working.
John, mate.
What?
All you have to do is read the instructions. It's all in there, and I've done it. It's all sorted.
That's what we call him, Smart Richard. Yeah, so if you have dramas with your new gauges from Redarc, read the instructions. Mate, get it right in future, all right? Yeah. Get it right, get it right. Jeez. On a lot of diesel engines, you've got glow plugs to individually warm up each cylinder, you know, when it's cold. 12HT, like a 13 BT, has got one of these, which is a plate, a thermal plate that heats up, you know, so it can be 24 volt on one side or 12 volt on the other, and it sits right there on top of the intake manifold, and right on top of that sits, let's get it the right way around, John, right on top of that sits this little butterfly chamber, which is actually the shut-off valve, okay? Now, in the process of making that manual, which is really simple, obviously, you just need a rod and a spring to make sure it holds back, and it holds back 180 degrees, you've got to take this thing to bits. So I'm going to take advantage of that to get rid of this whole thermal thing, which really all it's doing is slowing down the air. There's about maybe twice in 15 years I actually could have used an intake heater in Milo, and the 12HT's been the same. We haven't even bothered hooking it up, to be honest. So I'm going to do away with the whole thing completely. Now, if you look at that, you can see it's got lovely squared edges which are designed to lock onto that. So to let it breathe a little bit better, I'm going to hit these with the die grinder and smooth them out on each side, and then smooth out the whole lot. So it'll all go back together and it'll all look nice and fairly standard, but it won't have anything in there. It won't have any of that jail bar stuff happening, and it'll all flow nice and smoothly at a crucial spot right where it should flow. If you ever get tempted to play with one of these, you'll notice that it's got these funny little fixtures. They're like safety screws on a child's swing set or something, you know, like the type the council chuck in so no one comes along and undoes them. Well, that's why they do it, because if you were to come along and undo that, like some fool here did, might have been me, that nut on the inside will just drop down into the intake manifold. Bingo, lost forever. So part of this process is to pull all these things out and then block up these holes with bolts that go this way, which will be Loctited and then sealed over with the hammer so they can never come undone. And so that'll seal the whole thing up, make it freer flowing. There's nothing complex in this motor. By the time I've finished with it, you'll be able to tip petrol down the mouth. Actually, it's a diesel. Tip diesel down one end and it'll go like a train. And that's what we want, nothing complicated. All right, I'll go and carve this bit up for starters. I love this kind of stuff. This is real old school mechanics. You know, the first time I did this, I was about 17 and I was playing with the ports on a grey motor Holden. Then I went on to do it to a Norton I owned back then, and I almost got it right, except I made them so slim the valve guides fell out. Anyway, a little bit of emery paper, finish it off. Very old school, but it works like a charm. Now, I've put a little bit of oil on the emery paper. The combination of oil and emery paper and a fair bit of the old wrist action, you know, smooths out anything. Proper old school customising this is. Make it breathe. Nothing like tickling the inside of a diesel. Okay, well, we've done most of the modifying, so it's time to put this back together. Never fear, I blew all of this out with air before we got here. Okay, now that's got little screws on it now. We've siliconed them, they're little button heads, so there's just no way air can be pushed out of there. And then, even though we've got lock washers, we've nailed it over with the chisel, so there's no way those things can come loose, shake down, chew out a couple of valves. Valve body's all been nicely reshaped. Look at that. I blew it out with air, give it a little bit of white cloth. That's Alan's trick. You pick up dirt on a white cloth, you got dirt. We got very little. Beautiful. There we go. And that doesn't look right. Maybe if it goes that way. Look at that. But I'm going to use a tin gasket in here. These are the right sort of gasket to use in a high pressure turbo situation. You only get one use out of them though, which is always a worry. So just make sure that that one hasn't been used. No, good. Okay, on she goes. Because they crush down. All right. Throttle body back on. Got a couple of bolts on this side. And a couple of nuts, where are they? They got a built-in locker on them. Cool. And there you have it. All we've got to do is whack the pipe back on. We got rid of all that overcomplicated rubbish that we don't need. Probably picked up a couple of extra horsepower. This is the new switch off. Look, made up out of a piece of something with a headlight button on it, and it's going to go direct to the butterfly, and it's going to poke out just inside where I can get at it as soon as I drill a hole. Okay, cool-orama. Take me custom button off the end. Can't even see the hole now. You can't do better than primitive. Oh well, big day. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Nice one.
Yeah,
Again,
nice
back
one.
into it. It's good to be back into it.
It is, isn't it? We've achieved an awful lot today. We've got a stop button, a manual stop button. We've shifted the MaxTrax rack to the side for easy access, and it's going to stop that wind noise stuff. What else have we done, mate? We've put a seat in.
Done the gauges, the seats.
Yeah, you worked out how to do the gauges.
Yeah,
that was real clever, wasn't it, eh? We're laughing.
Yeah.
See, slow and steady, and we're going to win the race. You
right,
watch. Good on you, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, bud.
All right.